Hello, everybody. Today's introduction to business principle of management. Fifth class. Study the chapter 6. Okay. So let's have a record for this week, fifth week class. Hello, everybody. How was your last week? I'm receiving your review questions from you. Well, thank you very much. Today class is also studies in the business administration department with a class called international management or international business part. So at this time we will study more details, and I want to look at it very briefly today. So if you have any question, please let me know by email to me. So also today is some boring class because it's detailed part is we will study later. So later introduction to international management, international business, our school business major subject. We will study more detail at the time. So okay, today we will briefly review this course, this chapter. A little bit boring, Okay, let's start the class. Chapter 6, international management. We will briefly read it. The learning outcomes. There are 7 outcomes in this chapter. First is why it is important to understand and appreciate the importance of international management in today's world. What is important? We have to understand that and appreciate it. And second outcomes is what is culture and how can culture be understood through hosted culture frame. The Hofstede is full name is Jeet Hofstede. He is a Deutsch professor, so his research deeply and widely question or investigate or international management trading, and then he suggests some cultural framework for international management. And then number 3, how are the religions of the world categorized using the globe frame? Also, some researchers suggest a globe framework for the international management. So this global frame is affected from religions. So just I introduced the percentage or portion of religions in the world. And also, how does this categorization enhance understanding of class cultural leadership? Cross culture, it depends on the religious locations, some racial, or some structure, institution, things like that. So I introduced that. Oops. And number 4 is why is an understanding of cultural stereotyping important. Stereotyping is some fixed Fixed idea, because we have some information getting the mind or mentally, and then we willing to fixate our decision. So this is a stereotype. So why is an understanding of cultural stereotyping important? This stereotyping, cultural stereotyping is very important. So what the reason? And what can students do to prepare for cultural stereotyping by looking at social institution? So many social institution is teaching the cultural stereotype. What is that? And number 5, what steps can you undertake to be better prepared for cross-cultural assignment? The international management occurs is a cross-cultural assignment between the several nations or countries. So what steps can undertake the better prepared for cross-cultural assignment? Number 6, what are the main strategies that companies can use to go international? So what is the strategy to enter the international? What are the preparations for international business? Something like that. And number 7 is why might it be necessary for a company to go international, and how might it accomplish this goal? So the company decide to international business. So what is necessary and how to accomplish these goals? It's very important for multinational business in the international management situation. So these things is learning objectives. And chapter 6 consists of 7 verses. First, important of international management, the Hofstede cultural framework, global framework, cultural stereotypes and the social institution, and the cross-cultural assignment, strategies for expanding globally. And the last verse is the necessity of global markets. Okay, so we will review it one by one. 6.1, important of international management. First, definition is, what is the globalization? Globalization is worldwide phenomenon whereby the countries of the world are becoming more interconnected, and where trade barriers are appearing. This is globalization. In other words, this globalization is being facilitated by several key factors. Facilitated several keys, and companies wants to succeed in this environment must understand the key factors. If some company wants to globalization, there are some factors. So we will review the factors, globalization factors. These others suggest 3 factors. So we will review the one by one before the time. I'll give you some briefly what kind of factors of globalization. There are many factors, but I wrote the pictures. I explain by pictures. Technos, multinational companies, lower tariffs, improved transport, labor mobility, capital mobility, many others. But in this book is some internet, or some country culture clusters, and each company, each county has some leadership style, something like that. This is for globalization technologies. So point reference, this globalization is S letters, but mostly we like this globalization is G letters. So what is the difference? This is incorrect or not? So mostly we're using the Microsoft Word. So MS Word is a spelling check system. So if you're typing the globalization using the S, maybe it's a red line on the side. So that means it's MS Word has a special spelling check functions, and there are something to that are perfect. For example, the computing of S and G, globalization. So to put it simply, it usually uses S in British English. This S is global British English system, and G is American English style. So I'll give you another example is specialization. Specialization, sometimes we're using the S or sometimes we're using the G. So, but are the same example. Globalization, specialization. So if you're using the S, the British English style. If you're using the G style, G is an American style, American English style. Okay, and come back to globalization. I give the definition for globalization. In other aspects, I almost give some globalization definition. Is being facilitated by key function, key factors. So there are many factors, as I showed by pictures. There are many factors. So how we become, how do we facilitate these factors? This is the international management factors. So this chapter, this book is only explain 3 things, but is I explain other things. What are the 3 effects of globalization? So what are the effect of globalization? So there are globalization also have a side effects, lots of effects there. Some nations pursue the effects to develop the nations. That's the reason. So these include some factors: the job insecurity, fluctuation in price, terrorism, fluctuation in currency, capital flow, and so on. These things is effect of globalization. So there are, if some nation pursue the globalization, there are pros and cons, advantage and disadvantage. So that's why we will know the globalization definition and factors and what is the impact, something like that. So the globalization is changed the nation's business and people interact. So internal business is okay, but external export subject is international business a little bit different aspect. So we will study that. And then what is the main factors of globalization? As I said, there are many factors to consider building a strong globalization. Here's 13 globalization factors. The other side, and first is culture. Some other books just today. First, culture. Second is language and communication. And third is leadership should be more competitive and innovative. Let's say again, other books focus the main factors of globalization, three things. One thing is culture and language and communication. And third one is leadership through the competitive, innovative. That is the innovation, competitiveness, something like that, these factors. But this book is suggests some three things. One thing is globalization factors first suggest lowering trade barriers. So there are market barriers. Also in the international business also have trade barriers. Some words. So trade agreements. So in this case, need to trade agreement between the nations. So popular policy instruments that countries agree on to elimination cross-border barriers to trade and to promote global integration. So you heard a lot of the news in the United States and between the China. So simply we think about it, this tariff, but before that time, they have to have the trade agreement between the countries, and then they charge for tariffs or not. If we charge the tariffs, how many percentage, something, and then the exchange rate as well as exchange products. So there are many trade between the countries. For example, China is very cheapest things and very customized, oriented customized products. But the American is very poor product system. So the United States has to import from China many customer-oriented products. But the China is also imports some airplane or some cars, automobiles, or something like that. So another aspect is some agriculture food. So, for example, even though the United States have garlic market, but it's very poor system. But in the China, so very huge garlic system, garlic farming. So the United States mostly imported from China, but also they changed for garlic and cellophane. Think about this. These two products is related, no, nothing to relationship, but in the trade agreement between the countries, sometimes, well, mostly, they changed the farming and some industrial things. So it is to some agreement between the country, as you know. So let me explain again. Tariff definition is extra charges that are added to the price of international products in the form of additional taxes or higher prices as a way to give domestic companies a price advantage, while also protecting these companies from foreign competition. So some nations wants to protect their own company products. In this case, they charge for tariffs because it protect our products. If you import some products from other country, the government charge for tariffs. So these factors include the trade agreement. Number two suggestion is globalization factors is foreign direct investment, FDI. We say the FDI. So it's easy to understand. Foreign direct investment. So we invest directly in their country. This is FTA. So globalization factors is first is lower trade. Second is direct investment. And global also I'll give you some important definition. Emerging markets. It means markets in countries that present tremendous potential for multinations. This is emerging markets. There are a lot of markets in the world, so especially we are designated emerging market means is presents a tremendous potential products for multinations. This is emerging market definition. And third, globalization factors is internet. As you know, this internet is lots of the trading in the internet. Let me explain the business history a little. First time, 1930s, before that time, 18th centuries, 19th centuries, is a mass product. And at that time, who is important? The product produced, manufactured by power, anyway, steam power and coal power, crude oil power or something. Anyway, they're using the power and automation is mass production. As you know, this at the time they need to find some market because there are lots of products, but the product cannot sell in their country, so they have to find some other country market. That is colony. So England, Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, something. And after that, this is not history, but after that, there are many colonies, and World War I and World War II is okay. This is another history. But is in the business history aspects, I explained the mass product and then how we sell the products in the market. So that means is lots of trading in some place. For example, department store. If I go there, every product in there, shoes, clothes, kitchen, anyway, anything, cosmetic, something. This is a department store system. This is very unique sales place and development. And this department store means is customers part, detail, representative, detailed development systems. And as you know, nowadays is e-commerce that is through the internet. So Amazon and Alibaba or something, you know that you are using many times. So That means is logistics. Let me simply explain that. First time is products, very important. And the 2 to 3 decades later is a sales part and the end user. And nowadays, what is the important factors is transportation, logistics. So first time developed the producer, manufacturer, and salesman, wholesale, department store, something like that. And the internet also same thing. Offline sales is also same thing. But nowadays is which part is important? Transportation, logistics, from producer to end user. So Amazon is offline, online sales tools. So the Costco, Amazon is control the producer, manufacturer through the logistics and some internet system. This is first producer transfer to customers, and customer is some salesperson. So we divide 3 things, okay? Producer, transportation, and end user. So now it's so speedily developed these systems. What is the next generation futures forecastings? I think just my idea, it's integration, producer, logistics, end user. How we integrated this system, this is for next generation assignment something. I think develop for integrated 3 factors. Anyway, we come back in here. So globalization factors, the authors suggest the internet. That means it's e-commerce. So I explain by pictures e-commerce types B2C, business to customer, business to business, customer to customer. These things is e-commerce. M-commerce. What is the M-commerce? M-commerce is the where is it? M-commerce is the electric commerce conducted on mobile phone commerce. Mostly our students is using the mobile commerce. And the app commerce, what's the meaning of app commerce? It's conduct online business activity on Facebook. Facebook is also commerce. So this type of commerce is B2C, B2B, customer to customer, mobile commerce, and Facebook commerce. These things is e-commerce types. So e-commerce is some buying and selling of goods and services, or transmitting of funds and data. Mostly we think only buying and selling goods and services is e-commerce, but no. Now it's a transmitting of funds and data. So fund is are using their funds. Sometimes I send money to my son and daughters for Venmo. You know that every year Oxford Dictionary is announced new words, new one every year. So I heard that the Venmo. What's the meaning of the Venmo? Venmo means is send money through the Venmo. This is a kind of verb. So we did verb. We did the Venmo. We Venmoed. This one is verb. It's a new word in the Oxford Dictionary. So mostly students using the Venmo if they have some party with some barbecue party and they charge for gross money on one guys and then other guys is the Dutch pay through the Venmo. When I was in the university students, we are Dutch pay something. But nowadays Venmo is very easy. Then they send to very small money through the mobile something. So goods and service as well as the data and phone, more money, or some electronic network also shared. This is primarily the internet. Okay, so the globalization factors using the internet is more huge part of the international management. Okay, okay, let's move. I'm missing the 7 factors is influencing globalization. Globalization through though is basically economic activity is influenced by many factors. There are many factors by researcher, but is just I introduce some experts, introduce historical, economy, resources and markets, product issues, political, industrial organization, technologies. This some experts globalization is basically in economic activity. So many factors there. So just I introduced these 7 factors influencing globalization. Okay, so and okay, let's move to chapter 6.2. Hofstadter's cultural frame. The full name is Geert Hofstede is also, as I said, he is a Deutsch social psychologist. She's psychologist. So also he worked in IBM employees and also professor. So he defined the cultures, the collective programming of the mind that distinguish the numbers of one group or category of people from others. This is for Hofstede's cultural framework. So before we review this Hofstede suggestion, we will study their two word meaning is immigration, expatriate. So before we review, we know the words expatriate. As you know, this immigration is the movement of people from their home country or the other countries continue to grow worldwide. Anyway, we have the chance to upgrade immigration, include me. Expatriate means is a foreign employee who moves and works in another country for an extended period of time. Some period to work in other country. This is expatriate. Expatriate. Okay, it's not used to in my mouth. So expatriate is some temporarily give up the nationalist citizenship and then we work in the other countries. So in this case, Hofstede suggests some cultural framework. So this aspect for cultures, their own countries. So he suggests four dimensions. So cultural dimensions first is power distance. Cultural dimensions. Second is individualism and collectivism. And third cultural dimension is uncertainty avoidance. Cultural dimension fourth is masculinity. Masculinity is macho, something like that. In the Asian knows it macho, not something. So I explain one by one. Point where is it? Okay, so cultural dimension first is power distance. Hope City is the original survey of the modern, let me see. More than, I'm sorry, more than 88,000 employees of the 72 countries revealed four major cultural dimensions. So he investigated and surveyed to 88, almost 90,000 employees of the 72 countries. And then he suggests four kind of major cultural dimension. So he suggests the first cultural dimension is power distance. And okay, so power distance. So but power distance is the two kind of it. In the society with the high power distance and the low power distance. So yeah, people in the high power distance societies very likely to accept. It's easy to accept the power distance. It's in this case a high power distance, but in the other hand, in the contrast, on the other hand, the low power distance is tend to consider the all members are equal. All members are equal that, but that means it's a very low power distance because it's all members feel some equal things. But on the other hand, the high power instance power distance is to accept the inequally. Inequally means is I'm more eager accept the power. In this case, it's different. So he suggests two kinds of power distance. One is high and one is low. This is the two factors is impact the cultural dimension for international business. So and next suggests cultural dimension is individualism and collectivism. So let me explain by pictures. Individualism is inside, the feeling or act by inside. Collectivism is focused outside, something like that. So I show the individualism and collectivism is different. So individualism is degree to which society focus on the relationship of the individual to the group. Let me speak again. The society focuses on the relationship of the individual to the group. This is individualism. But on the other hand, collectivism is the practice or principle of giving a group priority over each individual in it. Each individual in it is collectivism. The arrow means is okay. Yes, in it. This is this individual in outside. In here for collectivism is going outside for the principle and practice for priority. But individualism is focused in the inside and to the groups. This is a little bit different. Right? So second dimension is hospitality suggests individualism and collectivism is important factors in the international business. And think about it, the international business cultural dimension is uncertainty avoidance. Uncertainty avoidance. Later we will study uncertainty and the risk situation. But in the international business is uncertainty is more difficult factors to international business. So also he suggests third cultural dimension is uncertainty avoidance. So in this case, how we avoid, escape the uncertainty, avoid the uncertainty. So in this case, people in the high uncertainty avoidance societies tend to want to avoid uncertainty and unpredictability. As you know, most people they don't want to uncertainty and the risk situation. So hospitality suggests a third cultural dimension, uncertainty avoidance. And last, fourth, cultural dimension, it suggests masculinity. Masculinity means is so men are expected to be the assertive, competitive, and focused on material success, something more strong and powerful success. But in the other hand, the women are expected to be nurturing and focused on people and the quality of life. A little bit different. So as you know, they are in the common sense, masculinity, and the other hand, the other word is femininity. Femininity. Masculinity, and femininity. So femininity is something like woman's type, and the masculinity is copy the man's type. But why he suggests a fourth cultural dimension in the international business? This is for a little bit different approach then. So masculine culture or masculine societies, the some stress, different expectation for men and women. That's why he suggests this something masculinity or the femininity. Femininity is different approach methodology. So Hofstede suggests cultural frameworks, four kinds of dimension. This is for I introduced there, and I did it, and 6.3 global framework. So global framework is a little bit different for approach by Hospital's framework. So global project is a more recently cultural project involving 170 researchers who collected data on 7,000 managers. So Hospitidis is 88,000 employees of 72 countries. So Hospitidis research the employees, but yeah, global framework is research to 170 researchers collected data from 117,000 managers. So a little bit different employees, but the global framework from the managers, a little bit different approach to international business. So in this case, we will study how the religion of the world categorized using the globe frame. Globe framework is using the religion vision, and how does the categorization of the units to understand the cross-cultural leadership, because it's a managers have to have a leadership. So we approach two things. One thing is categorizing by religions, and the other one is categorizing enhance the leadership. So first is global project is a study of global leadership and organizational behavior effectiveness that spans over 60 counties and cultures. So one of the 7 researchers analyzes the globe project, and then they suggest some approach or extend the international business. So this is for 1990s global project developed. So I explain, let me show to this picture by this globe project is divide the society countries by cluster system. Cluster means is some bundle. So there are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 categorized cluster. For example, Eastern Europe. The representative countries of Greece, Hungary, Albania, Slovenia, Poland, Russia, Georgia, Kazakhstan. This is for Eastern Europe. The Middle East, Turkey, Kuwait, Egypt, Morocco, Qatar, something. And Confucian Asia. You know that the Confucian is some Chinese very famous people. Confucian Asia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, China, South Korea, Japan is Confucian Asian country. And the Southern Asia, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, India, Thailand, Iran is Southern Asia. And Latin America, Ecuador, El Salvador, Colombia, Bolivia, Brazil, Guatemala, Argentina, Costa Rica, Venezuela, Mexico. This is for Latin America. And Nordic Europe. Nordic Europe is Denmark, Finland, Sweden. Okay. And Anglo, Canada, USA, Australia, Ireland, England, South Africa, and New Zealand. These include Anglo. And Germany, Europe, Austria, Netherlands, Switzerland, Germany East, Germany West, but now it's combined union, Germany. Latin Europe, Israel, Italy, Switzerland, and Spain, Portugal, France. It's Latin. South Sahara Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Zambia, Nigeria, South Africa is included the South Sahara Africa. Anyway, these researchers categorized clusters 10 groups. And then why is group divided group? each group is a little bit different leadership style. For example, I saw that. Yeah. The country cluster and preferred leadership style. H means is high and M is medium and L is low. So for example, Eastern Europe. Where is that? Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe is Greece, Hungary, Albania, Slovenia. Eastern Europe is charismatic is mid, but team-oriented mid. But participative is very low. Human-oriented is medium. Autonomous is very high. Self-protective, very high. They have categorized each country leadership. So if you want to going there, Eastern Europe for international business, you think about these factors. That's why I introduced this one. Latin America, Brazil, something countries. Charismatic is very high, but this team-oriented is also high. And autonomous is very low. And other factors is medium. For example, the Confucian Asia, including South Korea and China, is charismatic is mid. Team-oriented is medium. But this participative is very low. You will agree or not, I'm not sure anyway. But the self-protective very high. You agree? I'm not sure. Anyway, this is for researchers, for how many? So 170,000 managers. It's correct data, and then analysis these factors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 factors, and then they are categorized characteristics. And one more thing is angular. Oh, charismatic is very high. Also, participative is very high. Also, human-oriented is very high. But self-protective is very low. So, if you were the CEO or boss for make goal to international business to Confucian Asia, and then you think about these sectors. These factors, most Confucian Asian is very high self-protective characters. Think about this. Okay, this is some big data. So using this one is for your international business. This is we say the globe project. Okay. Cluster means is some country. I explained that. And move on 6.4 cultural stereotypes and the social institutions. As I said, the stereotypes means is fixed idea, the cultural fixed idea and the social institution. So the cultural paradox and the cultural stereotyping. We know these two words meaning, unless I give it the definitions. Insight from an understanding of culture may not necessarily coincide with a reality in that culture. We say the cultural paradox. Also, the cultural stereotyping means occurs when one assumes that all people within a cultural act, think, and behave the same way. This is cultural stereotypes. It's some fixed idea. Means it's the same way. This is we say the cultural stereotyping. So these cultural stereotyping is also very big factors in the international business. The role of social institution in international management. So what kind of roles? So we think social institutions. What's the meaning? Complex of position, roles, norms, and values rooted in particular types of social structures and organizing relatively stable patterns of human resources with respect to fundamental problems in sustaining viable societal structure within a given environment. We say social institution. So they mix several things, position, role, norms, and values mix it. This is for consist social institution. And but the social stratification. Social stratification is some class, social class. Social institution is some position roles is rigid. Rigid means is complaint. Depends on the position or roles, but the social stratification is class level. So degree, that means level to which social benefits are unequally distributed. That is, patterns are perpetuate for life, perpetuate this, enduring, keep the lasting. So for the life, this is social stratification. Stratification is social stratification is some level, and education. Education is a socializing experience that prepare individuals to act in the society. As you know, the education, but its definition is the adapted for or in the society, each individual. So some people prepared for society to engage the society. We need to education, as you know, and religion. Religion is also very important role of social institution in the international business. As you know, because each country have a different religion. This is very normal consent. So in the reference I'll show you some 2015 religion of the world portions. So in 2015 data only. I cannot find the 2020, so but it's very similar. So Christian is 31.2 portion, and Muslim Islamic is 24.1%, and unaffiliated nothing, and Hindus 15%, Buddhists 6.9%, and the folk religions 5.7%, other religions and Jews 0.2%. So this portion is very similar to, I guess very similar to 2020 data, but now I cannot find the newest one. So this is for a number of people in 2015 religious group numbers. But this is just references. So anyway, the most part is Christian and Muslim and Hindus. So if you make some international management, think about it, the role of social institution. At this time, you also very factors, religion and education level, social stratification, and social institutions. These things is think about in the international management. Okay, simply that's it. And move on 6.5. Cross-cultural assignment. If we pursue the international business, you have to have some assignment for cross-culture. So They suggest four things: the cultural before the cross-cultural assignment for definition, cross cultural intelligence. What's the meaning? This refers to the individual's compatibility, capability to production and manage effective in culturally diverse settings. So one of the goals of any cross-cultural training is to increase employees' cultural intelligence. So that means more again. So if you want to make a goal of the cross-cultural training, is to increase the employees' cultural intelligence. So if you go to the foreign country and then you have to give them or to increase the employees' cultural intelligence. So the authors suggest the cultural intelligence is made up for 4 dimensions: cognitive dimension, metacognitive dimension, motivational dimension, behavioral dimension. Let me say again, if the international business, you have to give them to increase the employees' intellectual, cultural intellectual intelligence through these 4 factors. First, cognitive dimension is focusing the individual knowledge of values and practice. So this is cognitive dimension. And metacognitive dimension is reflects an individual ability to use cross-cultural knowledge to understand and adapt to the cultural environment they are exposed to. This is metacognitive dimension. And motivational dimension, it means it's reflected the ability and desire to continuously learn new aspects of culture and adapt to them. And fourth suggestion of dimension is behavior dimension based on the ability of the individual to exhibit the appropriate form of verbal and non-verbal behavior when interacting with people from another culture. So it's a little bit deeply definition, so, but you don't mention this, remind this one only. We need for the goals of cross-cultural training. We think about this cultural intelligence for employees their own country, and at that time we diverse setting 4 kinds of dimension. One thing is cognitive. The content is not that anyway. 4 kinds of dimension there. There are 4 kinds of intention. Okay, that's it. And move on. Cross-cultural training through education and the personal experience. So as I said, is if the international business company makes some goals in other countries, the company give to employees the cross-cultural training through the education and personal experience. So there are 2 kinds of them: low legal cross-cultural training and high legal cross-cultural system cultural training, because it's so 2 things is a little bit different approach to training. So low legal, low difficult, legal it means it's difficult. So low difficult cross-cultural training. So training where individuals are exposed to critical information to help them understand the realities of different culture but are not actively engaged in their learning. It's a very low difficulty cross-cultural system. On the other hand, the high legal, high difficult cross-cultural training is method of training where participants are much more actively engaged in the training process and can learn some tacit. Tacit means is keep silent, silent aspect of cultural, cross-cultural differences. So if you pursue the training or through the education and personal experience, there are two things. One thing is low legal, the other one is high legal. So you adapted for training for them is very difficult cultures. So low difficult cross-cultural training is needed as a subject, and the high difficult cross-cultural system is participate in something cross-cultural differences. Okay, so you only know the cross-cultural training, the two kind of high and low. That's it. And when should cross-cultural training occurs? This one, think about only the timing of the training. It means training occurs, cultural training occurs when? Means is timing. Also, timing is very important factors to training for international business. Okay, when should cross-cultural training occurs? Is the timing of the training is, for example, for training takes 1 to 12 weeks or to 2 to 3 day program, something like that. So because it's if you pursue the training for the employees of other countries, you think about the timing. 1 week or 2 weeks or 12 weeks. It's different education background and the religious background is different. That's why we think about the timing. 1 week program or 12-week program. And also the programs, 2 days program or 3 days program or something like that. Okay. This is and adapting behavior to the culture. Exactly, we know that there. So it's the final issues that the managers need to address is that their training should not focus on identifying and teaching about the differences. That means is culture, if you think about it, the teaching or training of cultures, how you adapted behavior to their country, religious, country aspects, country education system, institution system, social institution. Like I said, is think about these factors also. I think you are very boring there, but it's almost done. Okay, 6.2 is a strategies for expand globally. Anyway, if you decide global management of global entrepreneurship, multinational, so in this case, you need for global strategy for expand. So in this case, you need for 3 things: global strategies, regional strategies, local strategies. So global strategy means is where all operations and activities are managed fairly, similarly worldwide, similarly managed fairly. Diligence, where the multinational adapts activities and operations to regional requirement. That's always common sense. local strategy. Companies' operations are adapted to fit some specific countries. Exactly sense, common sense. So if you extend the globally strategies, think about global strategies, or regional strategies, or local strategies, think about it. And the last chapter, 6.7, the necessity of a global market. A reason for internationalization. What's the reason there? Trade facilitation and growth opportunities. Two reason is for internationalization. The means is now is very so speedily changed the market situation in the world. So these two reason is for internationalization. Okay, internationalization. So trade facilitation and growth opportunity. There are two things, and what a reason there, but this is necessarily two things. So number one is how to go international, and how to go international. The internationalization is three things. He suggests that one thing is exporting, strategic alliance. Alliance means is union, cooperate. For example, multinational type. The foreign direct investment. So I said that's first chapter, it's FDI. So FDI is directly investment to their country. So how we get the globalization markets? Three things. One thing is exporting. There are many methods. For example, the licensing, the franchising, and second suggestion is a strategic alliance, make cooperation between two countries. So and where is it? The third international how to do that is a foreign direct investment. So directly invest their country. It's a little bit dangerous or risky because it's uncertainty situation. These things is the authors suggest the necessity of global market, three things: exporting, licensing, or franchising. Strategic alliance is cooperation and direct investment, as you know. Okay, so I'm also very boring. So this international business is very narrow contents there. So, but nowadays stressed emphasize this area, but there are some different approach to each textbook, because this book is I think it's almost 10 years ago. So there are lots of change the international, as you know, the international circumstance there. So this one is for basically theoretical approach for international business. But if you register international business in our school, and then somebody, include me, so at the time the detailed things we will study later. Okay, and today is very hard time for study, include me, because the content is very boring part. Okay, so that's all today class. I'll give you attendance check, chapter review questions. So what is the market for a country that presents tremendous potential in multinational corporation? What is that? I will show you. It's where is it? Here, emerging markets. Okay, so emerging market means is present tremendous potential for multinational. Yeah, say the emerging markets. Okay, and the second question is, what are some example of globalization factors? I'll show you. Where is it? Where is it? Here. Globalization factors. Technologies, multinational companies, lower tariffs, improved transportation, labor mobility, capital mobile mobility. So this is, for example, factors for globalization factors. Okay, that's all today, class. Okay, please send me answers by email, and also I will attach this materials by email to you after recording this class. Okay, see you next week. Thanks for joining this class. Thank you. Bye.